Good morning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hot Shop. Today, we have a few things going on the Hot Shop floor. We have hands on experiences where Hilltop artists are leading the experience. So, people are coming down onto the floor. They've purchased workshops to be able to create a piece of glass here on the floor. They are alumni, Hilltop Artist alumni that are guiding, instructing those workshops. And then here on the floor, she's begun to create. I think we're going to start with a piece that's similar to the item here on the podium, but I will clarify in just a moment. The process, it starts by dipping into the furnaces here in the hot shop, and the furnaces are where all the hot glass rest. They are the silver tanks with the doors on the front of them. As she dipped into that furnace, she rotated that rod to capture some glass. Then she blew into the end of the rod to create a bubble. And now she'll let that bubble rest to cool itself down, stabilize the glass. And then she'll dip back into the furnace to gather up some more glass to be able to continue to expand that bubble. So he'll open the door. Dipping into that furnace is like dipping into a jar of honey. As she rotates, that glass contains a certain level of viscosity, which allows it to adhere to itself. She'll come out. It looks orange, but it's really clear when it cools down. It's just hot. It's resting at 2,100 degrees. When she allows some of it to flow off the end of the rod, it's called a strip gather, and that just eliminates a little bit more than what she needed when she picked up some glass out of the furnace. And then here at the bench, she'll use her tools to stabilize the glass a bit more. Those chambers in front of the benches that she's holding the glass in, those are reheating chambers, and they're designed only to reheat the glass. They rest at 2,300 degrees during the process. They're powered by natural gas and forced air.